Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're gonna get a little bit fancier. We're gonna do some espresso rubbed pork chops and a summer risotto. This recipe is gonna be featuring our newest launch, our beer can rubs. I think this might be the coolest thing we've made yet. All right, so for this, you're gonna need some pork chops. I prefer bone-in, whatever floats your boat. Lots of butter, some lemon, cherry tomatoes, arborio rice. If you use long grain, I won't tell. And some summer veggies. We're gonna use asparagus, corn, green onions, and baby broccoli. And of course, it is not complete without some onion and a whole lot of Parmesan cheese. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is preheat your oven around 350 to 400 with your pan in it. A cast iron works beautifully, but as long as you've got any oven-safe pan, you're good to go. We're gonna season our pork chops, let them sit and get to room temperature, and then dice an onion. All right guys, for these pork chops, we are using the Imperial Coffee Stout Rub. This is probably one of my favorites in the 6-pack. And also, the sound it makes is great. You get that nice pop. And we're just gonna sprinkle it over liberally. We wanna be generous with this. And we're not gonna really rub it in, we're just gonna give it a good pat and make sure you are covering every inch of your meat. It's gonna make an amazing crust. It's got a little cocoa powder in it, so you just kind of smell that sweetness. Flip. Now that these are generously coated, we're just gonna set them aside and let them get to room temperature before we sear them. In the meantime, we are gonna start cutting up some of the veggies we'll need for the risotto, starting with a nice dice on our onion. So after you dice the onion, we are gonna prep the rest of our veggies for the risotto. The original recipe just calls for asparagus and corn, but I only have 1 ear of corn, so I'm gonna sub in some baby broccoli as well. We're just gonna give it all a rough chop, and for the asparagus, we're gonna cut it on the bias, just make it look a little fancier. So now that we've got all of our veggies prepped and set aside, we are going to pull our cast iron out of the oven, get some oil on it, and then start melting some butter to saute our onions. So the cast iron's out of the oven. We've got about 2 tablespoons of oil in there. It is ready to roll hot and poppin', and we are just gonna place these in the pan. So while we're getting a good sear on our pork chops, we are gonna drop in about a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil and our diced onion. For risotto, you want a nice wood spoon, preferably with corners, so you can get into every crevice of your pot. I like to call them grandma spoons. So once these can easily lift up from the pan, they are ready to flip, and they are beautiful. Once you've got a good sear on both sides, you're just gonna take that whole pan, pop it in your oven. That should still be nice and preheated while we cook our risotto, which is about ready to toss our rice in. And then you're just gonna toast that for about 1 to 2 minutes. So our risotto rice is nice and toasted, and the key to this is ladling in warm stock. So we're gonna do about a cup at a time, mixing it. This is a really great weekend recipe when you've got the time to dedicate to it, or if your world is in a global pandemic and you have a lot of free time, it would also be a great weeknight recipe. You just wanna make sure that you have the time to dedicate to your risotto to make sure it gets nice and creamy and delicious. So we're gonna stir until all the liquid is absorbed, and then just keep ladling that stock in. So you wanna make sure you can wipe it and it kind of leaves that trail. We'll go a little bit more. And about halfway through is when we'll add our veggies in. So while you've got some fresh stock in there, you buy yourself about a minute, we are gonna roast some cherry tomatoes, they are beautiful, to go on top of our pork chops and risotto. Just give them a hearty drizzle. Good pinch of salt. Half of black pepper. And then just shake it. And then we're gonna toss those in the oven just right below our pork chops. And let them get nice and blistery. Back to the risotto. On to our next cup full of broth. And you wanna keep stirring with risotto. What makes it so creamy and delicious is that constant agitation. Really good thing if you have a small human in the house to make them help you so that you can get other things done. After this broth absorbs, I think we'll throw in our corn and our broccoli. So in goes our nice summer corn and baby broccoli. We're also gonna give it a hearty pinch of salt and stir that up. And all of our veggies are gonna pre-cook in the risotto. However, if you wanted to grill that corn before throwing it in, I think it would make it delicious. It's almost time to put our last spoonful of broth in. So we are going to throw in our asparagus first, a pat of butter, and about 1/4 of a lemon. Let's see if it fits. Ooh, there we go. It's just gonna brighten up all of those super rich flavors. Get that going. Once this is all nice and combined, we will put in the last of our broth and an unhealthy amount of fresh Parmesan cheese. Do our last pat of butter, and then here comes the good stuff. In this case, try to get a block of Parmesan. The stuff that's pre-shredded just doesn't melt as nice and smooth and creamy as we want for this. So we've got everything ready to go. Our risotto is delicious and creamy. Our tomatoes are bursting and perfect. And our pork chops have rested and are ready to go. And we are just gonna plate this up. We're gonna give our pork chops a really nice, delicious bed of risotto to live on. And maybe dump a little on your handle, it's okay. All of those yummy summer veggies, they balance out the cheese, right? This has got to be one of my favorite meals to plate. It's so bright and so colorful and probably my favorite meals to eat. We got a little bit of everything. A little risotto, tomato, pork chops, they're falling off the bone. It is so good. You get a little bit of everything. The summer veggies are amazing. Those cherry tomatoes, you have to roast them. Promise me you will roast them. To find this recipe and so many more, head over to Spiceology.com and try something new tonight.